beginning of the fundamental right is all about the definition of state. And what does it say? We'll actually know as to what does this article say. See, in this we'll see we first understood whatever the fundamental rights meant. Here we see that the state has been used in different provisions concerning the fundamental rights. Hence, Article 12 has defined the term for the purposes of Part 3. So, what does it say? That the state includes who all? See, the state includes government and Parliament of India. So, government is what? Executive and legislative organs of the union government. All of these are involved in this state that we talk of. So, it's government and Parliament of India, then government and legislature of states. So, it's the executive and legislative organs of the union government also, and legislative and executive and legislative organs of the state governments also. And then what do we have? We have all local authorities, that is municipalities, panchayats, district boards, improvement trusts, etc. And then what do we have? We have all other authorities, that is statutory or non-statutory. Comment down if you know the difference between a statutory organization and a non-statutory organization. So we have here the authorities like LIC, ONGC, SAIL. All of these are part of the state that comes here. This is Article 12, which says that the state has been defined in a wider sense so as to include all its agency, actions of these agencies that can be challenged in the courts as violating the fundamental rights. This is Article 12. And according to Supreme Court, even a private body or an agency working as an instrument of the state falls within the meaning of the state under Article 12. This is it with Article 12 that we have here. And thus we see that Article 12 is what? Article 12 actually is the action of the agencies of the states that we study that can be challenged in the court on the violation of the fundamental rights that is given in the chapter. Article 12 and Article 13, too much to think of, right? And see, then we have Article 14. 12 is done, 13 is done, 14 is here. Right to equality. Article 14 says equality before law and equal protection of the law. See, this Article 14 says that the state shall not deny to any person equality before law or equal protection of the law within the territory of India, and this is applicable to everybody, to the citizens plus the foreigners. Further, equality before law is adopted from UK, and equal protection of laws is adopted from US. I don't know if it's there in the sources of the constitution mentioned, and if it's not there, we'll quickly go and mention it so that the next time when we are revising, we don't have to look into everywhere. See, here in US constitution, it is not mentioned the equal protection of the laws. I wished it had been independence of judicial review, impeachment. See, it is not mentioned. So what we do, we write here. I think the best would be if we wrote it with a pen so that the ink doesn't remove. Just give me a minute. So we'll quickly write here in the US that equal protection of law is added by US constitution, equal protection of law. And by UK, under UK, we'll write UK, British Constitution. We had the equality before law. I am guessing this is also not there. We'll quickly write here equality before law of Article 14. So then the next time when we have to revise, we can just quickly revise from this table itself, and we don't have to look for Article 14 all around in the book. So this was it, Article 14. Let's quickly understand what is equality before law and equal protection of law. See, what happens is in the equality before law that we study, there it says that the concept is that absence of any special privilege in favor of any person. So no special privilege is there. There is equal subjection of all persons to the ordinary laws of the land, and no person is above the law. This is what is equality before law. So basically it says that if these are two eyes of the laws, what is happening is everybody is equal when we call it a law. This is equality. Nobody is up or down. It is equal before law. But what is equal protection of laws? This is treatment is under equal circumstances. This is like the concept of equity, quality of treatment under equal circumstances. And it says that like should be treated alike without any discrimination, and similar application of similar laws to people under similar circumstances. So these 3 points constitute the equity concept of the fundamental rights. And so the rule of law is what? The equality before law, and this is there, but rule of law is what? See, rule of law says that the concept of equality before law is an element of the concept of rule of law propounded by A.V. Dicey, the British jurist. Absence of arbitrary power, that is, no man can be punished except for a breach of law. Alright. Equality before law, equal subjection of all citizens to the ordinary law of the land, and primacy of the rights of the individual as defined and enforced by the courts or law rather than the Constitution being the source of the individual rights. And the first and the second elements are applicable to the Indian system, but not the third one. The third one, the primacy of the rights of the individuals. The Constitution is the result of the rights of the individuals and enforced by the courts of law rather than the Constitution being the source of the individual rights, is not applicable to our country. In the Indian system, constitution is the source of the individual rights. This is important that we need to know. And Supreme Court held that rule of law as embodied in Article 14 is a basic feature, hence it cannot be destroyed even by an amendment. What were the exceptions? See, President of the government is not, see, we'll see actually in the President power when we actually started the President chapter, that President is not answerable to any court for the exercise or performance of his duties, and no criminal proceeding shall be instituted or continued against the President, and no process for the arrest or imprisonment is there, and no civil proceedings is against the President done. And then, so this is what? This is power of the President and the governor. So this is something which is right to equality, but these people are away from it. Then no person shall be liable to any civil or criminal proceedings in court in respect of publication in a newspaper. These are what? These are something, and we need to know. No member of parliament shall be, see, even no civil proceeding can be initiated during the term of office in respect of any act done by him in their personal capacity. This can also not be done. And then no person shall be liable to any civil in any court in respect of publication in any newspaper that we saw here. Then no member of parliament shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him in parliament or any committee thereof. Article 105 that it says, and Article 194 for the member of legislature. So member of parliament, member of legislature, the same point but different articles. And then what do we have? We have Article 31C, which is an exception to Article 14, amended by the 25th Amendment Act. I hope it was there. Okay, never mind. Which stated that laws made by the state or implementing DPSC under Article 39B and C cannot be challenged. So this Article 5 is there under Article 14, which stands even today. And then it also said that the foreign rulers, ambassadors and diplomats enjoy immunity from criminal and civil proceedings, obviously, and the UNO and its agencies enjoy their diplomatic immunity. So this was Article 14's first point, equality before law and the equal protection of laws that is there. So this is the description, the redistributive justice concept. You can add here if you want, because this is, I could not see it here, I don't know why. And then we have a rule of law we studied here, the exceptions to the rule of law that we had here. Now what do we have is, we have Article 15. Article 15 is point 2, and then we will see what happens. See, Article 15 is what? Prohibition of discrimination on certain grounds, where Article 15 says that the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. So it was religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. And then no citizen, the two crucial words are discrimination and only. The word discrimination means to make an adverse distinction, to distinguish unfavorably from others, and the use of the word only connotes the discrimination on the other grounds is not prohibited. These are all something that we can actually go through that if you want to. However, here the three exceptions to the general rule are that the state is permitted to make any special provisions for women and children. Then state is permitted to make any special advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes, and the state is empowered to make any special provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes. So this is something that we need to know. And also that we need to know is, see, when we said that no citizen shall be subjected to any disability, liability, restriction or condition that is here with regard to what? With regard to access to any shop, public. This is basically what? This is basically not differentiating between people regarding some shops or access to public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment. Use of wells, tanks, bathing baths, road, places of public resort maintained wholly or partly by state funds or dedicated to the use of general public. Why can't we put up private? Because we actually, state cannot indulge into some private matters when already state is having their affair. However, judiciary does enter whenever there is anything which comes or interrupts the Article 15, like the Sabarimala issue that was there, and right now currently there are a lot of issues like triple talaq, Sabarimala issue. So all of these are something which we ensure through the DPSP, and that is why we come here and see to these amendments. So this was Article 15. So Article 15 is asking us to not discriminate. Article 14 is equality. Article 15 is not discriminate. Article 16 is what? It is equality of opportunity for all citizens. How? See, Article 16 provides for equality of opportunities for citizens in matters of employment or appointment to any office under the state. So again here it will only be under the state for now, and no citizen can be discriminated against or be ineligible for any employment under the state only on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth or residence. So residence and descent. Descent and residence is something which was not mentioned in Article 15, and it is there. So it's race, caste, sex or place of birth only in prohibition of discrimination on certain grounds. Why is it not states here? Because states have different belief in different states. So you actually cannot say that according to the residence we cannot discriminate on certain grounds. But here in Article 16, during employment you cannot put in even the discrimination through residence, and descent also equality has to be there. However, there are three exceptions again. The first exception that says is that certain employment or appointment in a state or union territory Parliament can prescribe as a being a residence. For example, see, if Tamil Nadu is excellent in making idlis in dosa, so they can this is a very basic example. See, this is not what Parliament deals with, but just to get into our basics, we are clearing it with this example. So Parliament can prescribe that, okay, fine, if Tamil Nadu is efficient in that, people from that place only can do this work. So all of these are examples you can take to actually mug up these things so that it's beneficial for you when you're writing exams. So the first is that Parliament can prescribe residence as a certain condition for certain employment or appointment. This is one. And the second is, see, state can provide for reservation in favor of any backward class that is not adequately represented, which we actually see right now. And a law can provide that the incumbent of an office related to religious or denominational institution or member of its governing body should belong to the particular religion or denomination. This also we can see, because for example, see, if there is a mosque somewhere, and if the state says that no discrimination has to be done or a Hindu can enter, this can this can come into the dispute of, maybe Muslim says that no, Hindu should be not allowed or something like that. So this is something that, yes, a law can provide that the incumbent of an office related to religious or denominational institution should belong to a particular religion. All right, so this is the three points. Parliament can prescribe residence, state can provide for reservation of appointment in favor of backward classes, and the law can provide that the incumbent of an office related to religious or denominational institution or member of its governing body should belong to a particular religion or denomination. And then this is Mandal Commission and afterwards, which is, if you can go for a reading thing, or you can include all of these, any point from here if you want in your answers, if there's any. But apart from that, I don't think it's for revision when we actually bring it under fundamental rights. So we complete Article 16 and we step into Article 17. This is something that abolishes untouchability. What is it doing? See, Article 15 was avoiding discrimination. Article 16 was providing equality. And Article 17 is abolition of untouchability. So what does it do? It enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. So what is it doing? It is abolishing and forbidding the practice of untouchability in any form. The enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be punishable. And then it also mentions about the Protection of Civil Rights Act 955. It provides for what? It provides for imprisonment up to 6 months. Up to 6 months. 6 months. Or fine up to rupees 500 or both on any offence of untouchability that is there in Article 17, and a person convicted for offence of untouchability is disqualified for election. Disqualified for election to the Parliament or state legislature. This is a very important point because most of the education or things are not there in members of Parliament or houses, but this is one important point that can be there. And Supreme Court held that Article 17 is available against private individual also. So Article 16 was just to the states, Article 15 is just to the states, with 17 is for private individual also. Article 18 again has abolition of titles. So these are two negative rights. How? Because they are mentioning something which is negative in nature. It is abolishing. It is not bringing up anything. It is asking you to not do. It is not asking you to do. It is asking you to not do this. So abolishing the untouchability, and this is abolition of titles. It prohibits the state from conferring any title, and hereditary titles of nobility like Maharaja, Raja, anything like that is not allowed. Second, also if they are awarded anything, maybe like Padma Bhushan or Bharat Ratna or Padma Vibhushan awards, all those, these awards do not amount to the titles within the meaning of Article 18. And after that, it says this prohibits a citizen of India from accepting any title from any foreign states, and foreigner holding an office of profit under the state cannot accept any title. No citizen or foreigner holding any office of profit under the state is to accept present, emolument or anything. So this is it. Then we come to Article 19. This Supreme Court is talking of the award thing that I actually spoke of initially. Then we have Article 19, right to freedom of speech and expression. See, this guarantees to all citizens 6 rights. I can explain you this and we can actually mug it up very easily. See, first is right to freedom of speech and expression. This is very real. Let's start with a man. Let's start with a human here. This person has right to put in expressions and put in speeches. So right to freedom of speech and expression. Now, if this person wants to move out in the world, this person is getting the right to assemble peacefully and without arms. So this person can assemble peacefully and without arms, only then he can move out. Then right to form association. Now if he's moving out, he needs to talk to other people. He will meet other people like him, like her. She will meet. Everybody is here. So right to form associations or unions or cooperative societies that they can. This was through the 97th Amendment Act. Then if they all are coming here, they might want to move somewhere, they might want to travel somewhere, they might want to stay somewhere. So right to move freely, right to reside, right to settle, and right to practice any profession. These are the 6 rights. So it's very easy. See, one is speech and expression, another is move peacefully and without arms, third is right to form associations and unions and cooperative societies, which was added by the 97th Constitutional Amendment Act. Fourth is right to move freely anywhere. Fifth is right to reside and settle, because sometime you have to come back to one place, right? And then right to practice any profession or to carry on any trade. These 6 rights are protected against only state action and not private individuals. So we need to see that Article 19 is only state action, Article 16 was state action, 15 was state action, but 17 was private individual also. This we need to see. Then we have freedom of speech and expressions, and all these articles we need to go through of what they are talking about. Freedom of speech and expression says citizen has the right to express his views, opinions, beliefs, convictions, and right to propagate one's views. Freedom of press, commercial advertisements, telephonic, all of these are included. We can just go through this. I don't think we'll actually have to have a hard time remembering this. And the another thing is then freedom of assembly that we come to. Freedom of assembly again has it should be on public land and should be peaceful. So these are certain terms and conditions that you have to follow. You cannot just say freedom of assembly hai to main kahin bhi ghumega. It's that way. So it should be on public land, it should be peaceful, right to hold meetings, right to hold demonstrations, but not strike. So this is something that we need to see, that they are giving you right to move, they are giving you right to hold public meetings, they are giving you right to hold public programs, they are giving you right to go for weddings without permission from the government. They're giving you right to hold, the cultural programs, the dance issues, in the exhibitions, the organizations, anything without the freedom, without the permission from the state, but not strike. So these are called reasonable restrictions, and these are seen when there's a risk of obstruction, risk of destruction, risk of annoyance or danger to human life, health or safety, or a disturbance of the public tranquility, or a riot of any affray. These are reasonable restrictions that it is talking of. Similarly, in freedom of associations, see, you have the right to form associations, form political parties, companies, partnership firms, and everything, but it does not include the right to start an association, only to continue with the associations or union as such. It covers a negative right of not to form or join an association or union. So again, reasonable restrictions are there on the grounds of sovereignty and integrity of India, public order and morality, and subject to these restrictions, the citizen have complete liberty to form associations or unions for pursuing lawful objectives and purposes. Again, freedom of movement, there are reasonable restrictions. What? Interests of general public, protection of interest of any scheduled tribe. So you have to see, if you have the freedom of movement, it doesn't mean that you can roam about anywhere. You can go on cutting trees, you can go on moving into places, putting forests and fires, or anything like that. You have to have a reasonable restriction so that everything is done logically and practically. Freedom of residence again. So remove internal barriers within the country or between any of its parts, promotes nationalism and avoids narrow-mindedness. But what are the reasonable restrictions here? See, interest of general public and the protection interest of any scheduled tribes again has to be seen. The right of outsiders to reside and settle in tribal areas is restricted. Why? To protect the culture, language, customs and manners of those tribes, and to safeguard their traditional vocation and properties against exploitation. So all of these, again, freedom of profession, it has to have the rights and reasonable restrictions. What are they? See, the state is empowered to prescribe professional or technical qualification necessary for practicing any profession. So now if you want to be a civil servant and then you say, see, I have freedom of profession, just select me whatever way you can. So obviously the state has the right to put in their qualification that no, you have to pass these exams, only then we can think of appointing you as a civil servant. So these are again reasonable restrictions, and then carry on by itself any trade, business, industry or service, whether to the exclusion of citizens or otherwise. This is there. Then we come to Article 20. See, Article 19 was very easy, 6 rights we actually can remember. Then we have Article 20. What does it do? It grants protection against the arbitrary and excessive punishment to an accused person, whether it's a citizen or foreigner or legal person. So it contains 3 provisions. What are the? No ex post facto, that is, no person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law imposed at the time of commission, and that also only on criminal laws, and it is not on civil laws. Civil laws, it is not on civil laws. Then No double jeopardy, that means if once prosecuted, cannot be punished for the same offence. And then no self-incrimination, no person accused of any error shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. So this is there. And then the exceptions are what? I hope it's given here. Yeah. So the protection against error extends to both oral evidence document. However, it does not extend to what? Compulsory production of material objects, compulsion to give thumb impression, specimen signature, blood specimens. Obviously, when you're putting up a case, or you're asked to record a case, and you have to record your presence there, and then if you're asked to give your signature or your specimen signature, your blood specimens and impressions, you cannot run away from that, and this is something not extended here. And then compulsory exhibition of the body. See, so beautifully we can see, so beautifully our forefathers have actually organized our constitution that it is standing even today and existing even today and helping us even today. Then we have Article 21. It declares the protection of life and personal liberty, that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty, and only exception is during the procedure established by law, and this right is available to both citizens and non-citizens. And this, I guess, is covered. I have already covered when I was explaining you the Gopalan case and the Menaka Gandhi case. You can switch back and see, revise, and then come back to this part again. However, I'll complete it in short of what we are actually going through when we study Gopalan case. See, in the Gopalan case, Supreme Court took a narrow interpretation. It held that protection against Article 21 is only against arbitrary executive actions. So, it's only against executive and not legislature. So, if there is any law made, so Article 21 is not held, but if there is any implementation of that law, we will see that maybe in the Gopalan case, Supreme Court held that it is possible. So that meant what? That meant the state can deprive the right to life and the personal liberty. The right to life and your personal liberty could be deprived by the state, and this is because of the expression procedure established by law. Why? Because there was an exception that except according to the procedure established by law. So according to this statement, Supreme Court said that no state has the right to subside to deprive our rights. Then the validity of law that has prescribed the procedure can't be questioned on the ground that the law is unreasonable, unfair and unjust. This was what Supreme Court passed in the Gopalan case. Then again in Menaka Gandhi case, Supreme Court overruled its judgment in the Gopalan case that it had, and it ruled that right to life and personal liberty of a person can be deprived by law, provided that the procedure established by such a law is reasonable, fair and just. So it cannot be any law, it has to be these law which is actually for the betterment of that individual, for the betterment of that personal lifestyle, and then only it can be adopted. So it adopted the expression of due process of law instead of procedure established by law. And thus the protection under Article 21 should be present not only under arbitrary executive action but also against the arbitrary legislative action. This is what Menaka Gandhi case said. You can go through this and know that this was the gist I had talked of. And the court also held that Article 21 is not merely confined to animal existence or survival, but it includes within its ambit the right to live with human dignity. And why? Because these aspects gives a man's life meaningful, complete and worthy of living. And in Menaka Gandhi case, Supreme Court also added that right to live with human dignity and decent environment, and right to livelihood, right to privacy, right to shelter, right to health, all comes under the right to life and personal liberty that is there. We have other lists here. You can go through them and see as to what all other rights that actually Supreme Court added in Menaka Gandhi case under Article 21, that is protection of life and personal liberty. Then we had Article 21A that declares that state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children. This was added by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act, and right to education was made a fundamental right, which made it compulsory for all children between the age of 6 to 14 years to go to school. This is an achievement for us because initially in DPSP this was included, that this is our ambition to actually have education, compulsory education for 6 to 14 years of age, but Article 21A made this possible, and now our DPSP has improved. The target has changed to another thing that works for our improvement, and this has been added as a fundamental right. And Article 45, this was initially there, changed from the earlier directive. The state will endeavour to provide compulsory education to all children, and the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education to all children between 0 to 6. And there was Article 51A also that added that every parent should send their wards to school if they are of age 6 to 14 years. This is Article 21A. Then we have Article 22, protection against arrest and detention, and the detention are of two types. See, punitive detention and preventive detention. So what is punitive detention? Punish a person for an offence committed by him after trial and conviction in a court. And then preventive is detention of a person without trial and conviction, and the purpose is not to punish a person but to prevent him from committing an offence in the near future. This is very easy. And then Article 22 has two parts. First part deals with the cases of ordinary law, and second with the preventive detention law. First part has right to be informed on the grounds of arrest, consult and defended by legal. So it's basically whenever you are arresting a person, where you are putting them behind bars, you have to give them their right to be actually informed of why are they being arrested, or consult by a practitioner, or produced before a magistrate. Basically they should have their chance to speak up, their chance to actually put themselves up and show whether they are accused or not, and these safeguards are not available to an enemy, alien or a person arrested or detained under a preventive detention law. And Supreme Court ruled that the first part do not cover arrest under the orders of a court, and they apply only to an act of a criminal or quasi-criminal nature. And then second part of Article 22 grants protection to persons. How? See, protection is available to both citizens as well as aliens. See, the detention of a person cannot exceed 3 months unless an advisory board records or report sufficient cause for extended detention. And then the grounds of arrest should be communicated to the detainee and should be afforded an opportunity to make a representation in the detention order. And Article 22 also authorizes the Parliament to prescribe circumstances in the classes of cases in which a person can be detained for more than 3 months, and maximum period for which a person can be detained in any class of cases, and procedure to be followed by an advisory board in an inquiry. And all of these are something you can go through, you can read about, and you can know of what all articles and classes have been there inside Article 22. Then we have Article 23, protection against traffic in human beings and forced labour, which again prohibits traffic in human beings, forced labour and other similar forms of forced labour, and this is also available to citizen and foreigners. It protects the individual not only against the state but also against private persons. So this is also against private persons. So what all are against private person? See, this is there in private person. We have Article 17 for the private individual, but we do not have Article 16, Article 15, and comment down which one more article we studied right now in this video that is not against private individual. Then we come to Article 24. See, it prohibits employment of children in factories. See, this we can actually relate with Article 21A that was there, the education part. So it prohibits employment of children below age of 14 years in any factory, mine or anywhere else, but it does not prohibit the employment in any harmless or innocent work, like maybe in acting career or anywhere like that. They are not detained, they are not denied, but not in factory, mining or any hazardous activities that can be bad or harmful for their body or their upbringing. And then this is also there in international convention, and this is Child Labour Amendment 2016 that was there, which actually changed the age and the year, and the implementation was made better. Then we have right of freedom of religion. This is Article 25, Article 26. Article 25 says that persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion. You want to be a Hindu? Good. You want to be a Muslim? Good. You want to be a Sikh, Christian, anything you can be. This is your thing. So it says freedom of conscience, right to profess, right to practice, right to propagate. Then Article 26 is freedom to manage religious affairs. This is an article which came under the dispute when there was triple talaq bill that came. Why? Because at that point of time people said that we get to manage religious affairs on our own, don't interfere. Even in Sabarimala case that was there, but we actually have to see 25 guarantees rights of individuals, 26 guarantees rights of religious dominations, but must satisfy 3 conditions. What? Collection of individuals who have a system of beliefs, have a common organization, should be designated by a distinctive name, and thus Supreme Court held that Ramakrishna Mission, Ananda Marg are religious domination within the Hindu religion. It although Aurobindo Society is not a religious denomination. So you can know about the difference from here. Then we have 27. What? Freedom from taxation for promotion of a religion. This is that no person shall be compelled to pay any taxes for the promotion or maintenance of any particular religion or religious domination. Then we have Article 28, which is again a part of religion principles, which says that we have the freedom from attending religious instruction. You don't want to be a part of any religion? Cool. Don't be a part. No religious instruction shall be provided in any education institution wholly maintained out of state funds. So no religious, you have Gurukul somewhere maybe in the Hindu format, and you have institutions that is only for Muslims. So all of these are not something that has to be a part under the state run, state funded institutions, and institution administered by state established under a trust is permitted to do that. So this was it. Then we have cultural and educational rights, protection of interests of minorities. We have Article 29 for provides that any section or citizen in any part of India having a distinct language shall have the rights to conserve the savior. And then we have Article 30 that says the rights of minorities to establish and administer education institutes. The first one is the part to protect their language and culture. Second is the part to protect their administration and their education. Then Article 31 was compelled. You can just go through this. This is important if you want to actually write your answers. And then Article 31 was abolished. We know why. And Article 32 is right to constitutional remedies, which is here. Right to get the fundamental rights protected is in itself a fundamental right, and Article 32 is a very, very important part. What does it say? That an article without which the constitution would be a nullity is Article 32, very soul of the constitution, basic feature of the constitution, and it contains following 4 provisions. What? Move the Supreme Court by appropriate proceedings. Supreme Court shall have power to issue directions, orders or writs for the enforcement of any of the fundamental rights, and the writs are also here. Then Parliament can empower any court to issue directions, orders without prejudice, and right to move the Supreme Court shall not be suspended except as otherwise provided. And President can suspend the right to move any court only during national emergency, which is Article 359. Thus clear. Supreme Court has been constituted as a defender and guarantor of the fundamental rights, and this is all Article 32 to provide a guaranteed, effective, expeditious, inexpensive and summary remedy for the protection of the fundamental rights. Then we have the writs to this chapter. I will complete this in another part, and we will then complete the fundamental rights, and these are all some small articles that are there and the exceptions to fundamental rights. I hope I come up with a new video for this, or else this is just a read through. We can actually go through this alone